Welcome to the OVW podcast, the unofficial podcast of Ohio Valley Wrestling. My name is Jack Minogue.
And I'm Brian Hines.
We are joined today by a member of the Revolution, another OVW superstar, as part of our ongoing interview series. Today, Exceptional Dalton McKenzie. Exceptional Dalton McKenzie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much.
For a side note, I can't see you guys. Where are you guys at?
We are at our desk right now. We'll see if we can get your audio or your video working a little bit better.
Perfect.
I always like to start with a really broad question.
Sure.
How did you end up at Ohio Valley Wrestling?
I know it's not going to be a popular answer because, he's probably not only the most professional, the most successful man in professional wrestling, but he might be the most hated, and that is one Carson Drake.
Sure.
Actually.
Yeah.
You guys are both from Cincinnati.
We are, unfortunately. I love Cincinnati. Carson, he's that guy, I tell you.
So Carson kind of, he's at OVW before you and kind of makes the connections, or?
Yeah, so many. Obviously, it's not a secret for those that follow me on social media that me and Carson are best friends, along with Jack Vaughn. Mm-hmm. So those guys basically kind of just told me to hop in the car and brought me down, and I came down, and obviously they saw me and went, "This guy's handsome and talented. Let's get him in the ring." And that's pretty much how it happened. There's really nothing crazy about the story. I kind of just always had wondered how to get down there. Wrestling's weird, you know what I mean? So it's you never know how to really go about making connections, and it's just about who you know, really. So those guys just told me to hop in the car with them, and that's pretty much it, man. I've been there ever since, on and off, obviously.
How long were you wrestling before you got the opportunity at OVW?
I've only been wrestling for 2.5 years total,
wow.
Truthfully. Yeah, I know. I'm just so talented.
Yeah, it didn't take you long.
Yeah, honestly, I've been at OVW for about a year. So, yeah, I guess a year or a little over a year before I came down.
Interesting. So how did you get into the world of wrestling if you kind of didn't start until a little bit later?
So it's not really a secret. I'm a meathead, man. I'm always at the gym, and I actually met a guy by the name of Sean Bond. He's a local guy up here in Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. We were just training, and one day he just asked me, kind of if I like professional wrestling, if I've ever thought about doing it. And I'm like, yeah, every day of my life, brother. But wrestling feels like a cult sometimes. You never know how you're going to get started. You don't know how to dive into that world until you meet somebody. And then actually there's another gentleman that I won't name, but for probably legal reasons, but another gentleman that Sean is friends with that basically he said, hey, you should text this guy, and, he can kind of get you in. And, long story short, they introduced me to a brother by the name of Tim Lutz at Ascend Pro Wrestling. And that's where I started training. And then I met a wrestler that grew up watching as a kid, who I still think to this day is probably the best professional wrestler not signed to a major company. And that's Aaron Williams. And then he basically took my training over from there. And kind of basically taught me, he basically took all my talent, my strength, and my charisma, and just kind of honed it in. And it's hard not to learn and get better when that guy's the one training that,
Sure.
That fills in a lot of blanks for me, because the first time I saw you wrestle was at a Spot Monkey show, but realized...
Yeah, Manchester, right?
Yeah, at Manchester. 2.5 years ago?
Something like that, yes. The Rumble on the River, which actually is cheap plug. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but there's another one coming up that yours truly is on, and I believe April in Manchester.
Really?
I believe so.
I think that was the last...
Hopefully they don't get mad at me for not knowing the date, but what are you going to do?
Well, you got a couple months away, so you got
time. A busy schedule, brother. Okay.
Yeah, I hear you. That was probably the last event that I sponsored as a real estate agent back in my real estate days when I was down there. I was super excited to see you that night. And then the very next week, I started down here in Lexington working my current job and getting into all this. So our paths have crossed several times. And I'm not surprised that Tim Lutz was the one that introduced you and started training. And I'm definitely not surprised that Aaron Williams was the one that took over, because both of those names are pretty big in Southern Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, and really like across the Midwest, truthfully. I mean, and then even Jack Vaughn, that's my uncle Jack, coach even, as I like to call him. That guy kind of took me in as well under his 6'9" or 10 wingspan or whatever it is. You know.
What was your athletic background prior to wrestling?
So I played like baseball and basketball in high school, and I was pretty good. Like I had some smaller, like college offers, nothing insane really. D like two, D3. And then I actually walked on to Cincinnati Christian's football team because I was like, dude, I'm a premier athlete. I kind of want to play football in college, so that's what I did. And then I tore my ACL and my MCL, and that's kind of like put a pretty quick stop to the college football career. So I mean, in my head, I'm going from like D3 to the NFL. You know what I mean? That didn't happen. So then a couple years later, I mean, it wasn't probably. I think I was like 21 or 22 when I tore the ACL, and then I started wrestling at 26, maybe 27.
Okay,
something like that.
But you kept kind of working out, obviously, kind of physique.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously,
yeah.
What is one of your kind of earliest memories from your earliest days in wrestling?
As like a fan or as like a wrestler?
Let's start with fan.
As a fan, weirdly enough, I mean, Aaron probably hates when I tell the story. So he used to travel around to the smaller towns, like just all over when HWA was a thing. I don't know if I'm allowed to plug that either, but
Heartland Wrestling Association.
Yeah. So, like LA Knight used to work there, and some other guys that are at a larger company now. And so Aaron wrestled there with them, and I remember I was like 10 or 11, and Aaron used to have like long blonde hair, and the dude did like a backflip. There's like a balcony, so there's a stage there and a balcony. He did like a backflip off the balcony, and then later in the match, they had to like ambulance the guy out of there, and I just remember like seeing that, like, oh my god, this dude died. Like I'm 12, I'm like, this guy died, like for sure.
Oh no.
I mean, I definitely always remember that, and then I remember I always just had these like memories of like Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels because like clearly that's like the goats, right?
Oh yeah.
And I just remember watching wrestling with my dad, like from like the youngest age, back in kind of the latter stages of like the Monday Night Wars and things like that. And a lot of my memories just stem from being with my dad, to be honest with you.
Sure. Was that kind of a special thing between y'all?
Yeah, I mean, up until he actually passed away last year, but up until he used to come to watch me. We used to watch WrestleMania and all the big pay-per-views every year together, and I mean, it was just like a thing that we had together. He was always a huge like wrestling fan growing up, and then kind of just like raised me that way. So I've always kind of had like that love for professional wrestling alongside, like it was just our thing,
Sure. So one of your earliest memories as a fan is Justin. I'm sorry, I forget what this gentleman who trained him.
Aaron Williams.
Aaron Williams.
Yeah,
one of your earliest memories is with Aaron Williams. I'm sorry. And then
you're good, no worries.
you get into training, and this is a guy who kind of takes an interest in training you. How does that like make you feel in that moment? How do you even react to that?
It's actually pretty insane. It's one of those like full circle moments, honestly, because I go up to train at the school he was training kids at, and I kind of like, I don't know, I kind of fell out of like the independent scene for a while. Like as a kid, I was going to a lot of the shows, and then I kind of just solely started watching like the larger products on like TV. And then, so I hadn't probably watched him wrestle in, I bet 15 years.
Sure.
And so I go to train at that school, and I go in there and he's putting on the class, and I start kind of putting two and two together, and I start remembering, and he starts doing some stuff. And then I started asking him like, hey man, like, did you used to wrestle under the name like Astonishing Aaron Williams? And he's like, yeah. He's like, holy cow, bud. Like, how do you remember that? And I'm like, dude, I remember watching it when I was like 12. And of course he felt very old at that time. But basically so this guy, I kind of grew up watching it all the shows, and I always thought was just like the coolest dude,
right?
Who, has like a very solid reputation in wrestling. And obviously he's just ridiculously good. Kind of, lets me pick his brain all the time and takes an interest in me, and kind of, it felt like he definitely showed me a little more attention in the class than some of the other students. But I mean, why wouldn't he? Because I was just worlds better than everybody. I'm just going to be quite frank about it. I mean, come on, dude. Like, handsome, jacked, basically a college athlete, right?
Yeah. Humble as well.
It was so humble.
Yeah. So talented. But it was just cool for me because it was just, and now we have just a very, like, we have a relationship, like, outside of wrestling as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's just kind of like almost like another, like, father figure to me, even though, that he's probably, like, 15 years older than me. But he's, I call him my wrestling dad all the time.
What's something that still sticks with you that you've learned from him?
Honestly, it's the biggest thing that even to this day that he really, like, hammers home for me is like, I just got to stop. And you're always your own worst critic, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, as humble as I am, graciously, I always am just beating myself up over, like, little stuff, and just, I just want to keep improving, keep honing my craft, and he's always kind of telling me to, like, basically take a step back and kind of look where I was, look where I am, and just kind of appreciate the journey. You know what I mean? And just appreciate, like, all the ups and downs that like this road has, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, is like, there's not really a better person in wrestling than him. And a lot of his, like, teachings upon me is just, have fun and just be respectable and just be a good person, and that's probably what I try to carry with me everywhere I go. You know what I mean? And just try not to be too critical of myself anyway.
Sure.
So I had a question for you. The last time I think I saw you in Southern Ohio, it was at a Spot Monkey show.
Probably Batavia, huh?
I want to say I was going to go with Eastern High School.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a bit of a homecoming for you. What was it like being the main event and getting that kind of reaction from the crowd that night?
That's honestly, that's probably still to this day, like, my favorite, like, show that I've done.
Yeah.
I mean, the reaction was just insane. I had my old basketball jersey on.
Yeah. That's right.
That's one of those road warrior pops is what it felt like. You always hear those stories and just ear deafening, like, like pops. And that's what it felt like that night. I mean, it was, when you have people that, just love and support you, and you walk out through that curtain, you don't know what you're going to get, and I mean, even though it was, like, my, I guess, alma mater, right? Like, you just don't know. And then you go out there and to get that kind of reaction was just, I mean, it's still to this day, it just, like, gives me goosebumps, like, talking about it.
It really was.
It was just I mean, everything, because that show actually, was about 3 days before my dad passed away.
Yeah.
And so, like, that show just had a lot of emotion, not only because of him, but also because, it's where I went to high school. I grew up in that community. Like, it just, everything kind of culminated at that moment, and it was just a super cool opportunity, and I mean, Shane Douglas was there, which, like, shout out to that guy.
Yeah.
And he kind of came up to me after the show and was like, brother, that dude's heard a lot of pops in his day, and, like, that was one that he was even like, holy cow,
Yeah, that was definitely the biggest pop of the night, and for all intents and purposes, you were the guest of honor. I've got a different question for you. Yeah. At the Rumble on the River, didn't you have a match? It was a 6-man tag with Hornswoggle. So, what was it like being in a match with him, and how hard did the double nip twist hurt? Because that was as high as he could reach.
That brother is stiff, dude. I think I've still got purple nurples, bro. That's why I got this tank top on. Like, I'm telling you, it's like, I'll tell you what, man, that's another guy in the business that is just hilarious. Like, he was super easy to work with. I mean, he did twist the hell out of my titties. I will say that. I don't know if I can say titties on this podcast, but he definitely twisted the hell out of my titties. So, and in the bite, I don't know if you guys remember, go back and watch the match, but he bit my ass, and I still probably have bite marks from that little turd, dude. No, that was a pretty cool little, like, moment as well. That dude is, I mean, he's hilarious. He's heavier than you would think he is.
Really?
Being so small. Oh, yeah, dude. All that center of gravity is a foot off the ground.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a very valid point. That's true.
Yeah.
So you call yourself a Cincinnati boy. I can tell just by talking in this last little bit that, like, being from Cincinnati, being from the Cincinnati area, I guess I should say, being from Ohio was very important to you. You had a great homecoming at a very emotional moment. So I guess I have to ask, Skyline or Gold Star?
Oh, dude. Okay, so this is a very like important distinction. So like if it's overall, it's Gold Star.
Okay.
Like overall is Gold Star, but I'm about to put you guys on, everyone else listening to this podcast. Skyline's Cholitos are better than anything that Gold Star has. But Gold Star's overall menu is better. So you go to Skyline, 3 Cholitos, spaghetti, sour cream, onion if you prefer, and chili and cheese and that bad boy. It's a burrito. It's all wrapped in a burrito. Yeah. Let me tell you, that's one of the best things you'll ever put in your mouth.
I'm gonna go get one tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I could go for that right now.
I always have to know, because I know that you guys take the chili wars very seriously up there.
It literally is like Skyline versus Gold Star in Cincinnati is like the Bengals versus Steelers, but it's just in the same city.
Yeah, pretty much. Lucky for us, back in the day, we had Gold Star in right Georgetown, right down the street. And I've been saying this for a while now. We actually did work together about 10 years ago.
Fresh out of high school, Dalton McKenzie.
So that was 10 years ago. That would put you at what? How old?
I just turned 29. So I was 18. I just graduated high school in like May, and then I came to work there in like November, and I think you came there a couple months after that.
Yeah,
something like that.
We're gonna touch on that. That's actually how I want to end the interview.
Okay.
Is with that one very specific story.
Okay.
So the revolution kind of is bubbling up inside of OVW. You're one of the earliest guys early tag team champions from the revolution. Now you've seen it. It's grown. There's a ton of new people in it. What are you think? What's your opinions on the revolution? Since you were a day one guy,
I'll tell you what. I feel like I'm an OG. I'm an original revolution guy, but I don't feel too welcome, too loved in the revolution right now. I've got some bones to pick with Leather Daddy Doug, as some would call him, and the rest of the goons. I mean, AJ's my boy, and I mean, quite frankly, I'm a little. I've still got a little chip on the shoulder from these guys because I don't know how many people know, but one of the reasons for my absence is back here in, I want to say, October, November. I had a partially torn hamstring, so I had to take some time off. And for some reason, as Doug's promoting this, like we're family and we have each other's backs and all this stuff, but that's weird because there's only one dude from the revolution who's bothered to text me or call me or even check in on my hamstring, check in to see how I'm doing mentally, physically, and it was AJ. Mm-hmm. So we're supposed to be this tight knit group that's we're battling for the greater good, which seems like the greater good might just be Doug Basham's ego. I definitely got some bones to pick with him when I get back. If I get back, I guess. I mean, I don't know what this guy. He seems like him and his goon squad are just kind of running ramshot right now. But I just want to know, like, if we're such a tight knit family, how come one out of the 10 dudes that we had in the group bothered to even message me and check in with me?
Yeah.
Seems like anytime a guy, a friend or a family member gets hurt, the first thing you would do is kind of call and check and see if they need anything, see how they're doing, but it seems like the only thing he's really worried about is himself. So, I don't know. I've still got a little bit of animosity, I guess you could say.
Did you feel a little forgotten?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like they just didn't, it felt like they didn't need me, but it's like, hey, me and AJ, like myself and AJ had the tag titles. Like, we've helped you guys in numerous situations that seemed like you were in a pickle. We've done pretty much anything that we had to do for Doug, and it's like that dude. I mean, it's not even just him; it's the rest of the group. Also, just it's like they forgot about myself and AJ for that matter. And I mean, I don't know, man. It just doesn't really. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can tell. It wouldn't be the first time that you had left like an engagement under interesting circumstances, though. Do I have that correct, Brian Hines?
Yes, that is correct. So once upon a time, long time ago, Southern Ohio.
I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, you already know where this is going. We did work together.
And we're back. Sorry, Dalton. Thanks for sticking with us. We had a little bit of a technical issue over on our side. Brian Hines.
So back in the day, I've been telling people for a while, we did actually work together once upon a time, years ago. And there are a couple stories that I wanted to talk about. The first of them being that you pulled the delivery truck out from being stuck. Can you tell us about that?
I mean, in my head, I pulled the delivery truck out of the ditch. I didn't get it stuck, though. I just want to clarify. I didn't get it stuck.
Are we talking like a box truck here?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a 16-foot. Listen, when you're in a jam and you're trying to go home because it's the end of the day and you just want to go to the gym, you're going to do what you have to do. I ain't waiting on a tow truck. I'm a literal tow truck, dude. I'm built like a refrigerator. All right. I'll just pull it. It's my fault. And of course, no one at the store believed me, but luckily there was a witness. The guy who actually did get the truck stuck was there.
If I remember right, that would be Zach. Shout out to Zach.
So, anyway, I was wondering, what do you think like that dude's doing? You think he's like, he peaked after working with me? Like, can you imagine watching me like pull a box truck out of a ditch that you got stuck in, and then you're just like, it's all downhill from here, kind of thing.
I honestly don't know. He stayed on after a while after you left the company, and I saw him a couple years ago when I popped in to say hi.
I heard he still works there.
I seems like the last time I did come in, I did see him, or I was driving through town and I saw him in a box truck. And
I mean, another solid dude. You know, don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
another solid guy.
Yeah, definitely. I always had a great time working with him. But even after you left the company, he stayed on. But that's kind of where I'm leading to as far as this goes. Can you tell me about your last day or so with the company and how you were informed that the future was not going to include Dalton McKenzie?
And before you start, Dalton, I'd just like to preface this with, we have wanted this story on the podcast since day one. So thank you for finally giving it to us.
So I had this boss, and for sake of our argument, her name was Jolly Georgie. And we're just going to say that. I loved her. I thought she was a great boss. But that's also because, like, she kind of just had a crush on me.
Well,
like,
I mean,
clearly, I would have too. Like, I'm so handsome. And she kind of let me do whatever I want. Well, another guy who worked at the store, he's actually our regional manager, was not such a fan of young, Padawan Dalton McKenzie before I had become a Jedi. And he wasn't a super big fan of mine, so he was ready to get me out the door. And I let this man know quite frequently just what my exact thoughts on him and pretty much everything else was.
Does his name rhyme with Clark?
It rhymes with Clark Schmiffith.
Yeah.
And he always used to go, "What? What? Yes."
Oh my God! I totally forgot about that guy.
Yeah.
And what a clown! What a clown!
A terrible human being. I don't hate a lot of people. I hate that guy. But so Clark one day goes to Jolly and says, "Fire this kid, or I will." And she's just like, "No, you can't fire him. He's good at his job. Our customers love him.
He can lift a box truck." I mean, I feel like that.
He can pick up our box truck, and he's really handsome and talented. Like back then, it's just been a theme of my life. And he's like, "I don't care. I don't want this kid to work here." And so Jolly tells Clark, "Okay, let's give him 2 weeks. Like, let him have 2 weeks, and we can try to find another gig or whatever." I was going back to college anyway, so it wasn't really a huge deal to me. But she didn't want to fire me because she was in love with me. Which, Brian, did you ever tell these guys the story about when we went to the delivery specialist training thing that they had in Chillicothe?
No, I hadn't gotten that far. I hadn't really gotten into any of the stories from those days.
That's probably not a story for the podcast.
Probably not.
But remind me to tell you guys when we go off the air or at a later date. It's about Jolly and myself. It's hilarious. Anyway, so she basically tells me, like, hey, here's what's going on. I don't want to do this, but, whatever. Okay, cool. So as you'd imagine, I was an absolute tyrant for the next 2 weeks. I was the worst. I didn't do anything. I just purposely was getting on people's nerves. I would go out and, like, just hang out with customers. I was just like, why would I work? You know what I mean? And so we had a new guy there, and I used to just call him new guy. I still to this day don't know what his name was because I never bothered to learn it. I had to like train him as my replacement, and I just kept calling him new guy. So, and then for my last day, Jolly got me a cake. Jolly and the rest of the store, I should say. I think it was from Everton.
Yeah, I had to pick it up.
Yeah, got me a cake, and it said like, "Thank you." But you're fired or something. It was like a cake that said you're fired on because they were firing me. And that was just kind of like a culmination of like my tenure there, which was like everyone really enjoyed working with me. I was pretty good at the job, and then it was like, we're gonna have some fun. And because life's all about having fun, man. If you ain't having fun, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I definitely remember that because it was my job to go pick up that cake. They misspelled your. They spelled it Y-O-U-R. And they had to ask me how to spell fired for crying out loud.
That's definitely a Georgetown thing.
Hometown proud.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I went to Eastern, Brad. I didn't go to Georgetown. Those kids over there didn't know how to spell. They're illiterate.
No, and I can attest to that. Those last 2 weeks, you did F all and did whatever you wanted. And dude, I remember...
I used to ride in the truck with you, and we would just play, like, sweet tunes all day.
Yeah. We'd be out on the road just cranking Van Halen and stuff and driving around.
Oh, dude. And, we threw on some, like, Weird Al, some Steel Panther. Like, we just...
Yeah.
It was a good time, but I was definitely an absolute menace for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sure.
It was the day of... the cake firing, and you were just like, yeah, well, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah,
I got other stuff to do.
And like, I still don't remember that guy's name that I was supposed to train. I literally told the guy, like, man, I just kept calling him new guy. Like when I was in college, I used to call her kicker all the time because I just didn't want to bother to like learn his name. So, yeah.
Dalton, thank you for sticking with us today, man. We know that we've had a lot of kind of back and forth, and we appreciate you sticking with us. I know that you
oh, dude, anything for Brian. That's my guy.
Oh, I appreciate it, man.
I know that you're a little busy on the way out here. Do you mind to just plug your social medias?
Yeah, of course. So I actually don't have Twitter or X or whatever you feel like calling it this day and age, but my Facebook is just Dalton McKenzie. Yes, I do wrestle under my real name. And my Instagram is Dalton.McKenzie17, as in the number 17, just 17 right after my name. Am I allowed to plug like promotions they can see me at too? I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so yeah. So, obviously you guys can kind of catch me on OVW, whatever I'm there. NWA, JCP, Pro Wrestling Exodus, Spot Monkey, of course. Just a smackling of other promotions kind of around the country, man. Just keep your eyes peeled because I'm going to be everywhere, Daddy.
Nice.
Dalton, thank you so much, man. Have a good evening.
Really appreciate
it. Thank you, guys.
The Exception, Dalton McKenzie, everybody.
Take care.
It's me. See you guys.
See ya.